Will the 49ers make a splash trade in free agency starting next week as the legal tampering period begins on Monday? And then we're exactly a week away from when free agency, signings and any of these trades that might end up happening become official. So a lot of teams clearing, more cap space, cutting a lot of guys like the Buffalo Bills. Tre'Davious White, the corner, return specialist, former All-Pro, Deontay Hardy, who I think the 49ers should have some interest in because they need a return man, and Ray McLeod's a free agent. I don't think they're going to bring him back. I think they're going to look to upgrade. But the first guy I think that they should look into is a guy like Mike Onwenu from the New England Patriots, former sixth round pick in 2020 from Michigan, 26 years of age, very solid, offensive lineman, can play on the outside at the right tackle spot and at right guard, which is exactly what the 49ers need. Now, there are going to be some other teams out there that I'm sure going to have interest in him, could probably offer him a little bit more, but the 49ers should be able to go after some of these big names because they're not in cap hell. Hell, they are able to sustain that salary cap. They have that formula down of how they're going to spend in free agency, right? They've learned kind of from the past when they've made a lot of free agent signings or trades, like a guy for D Ford who just didn't work out. The injury history, right? Quan Alexander, same kind of thing, injury history. And ultimately, they had to get off of those guys, and they just recently finally are able to stop having to pay a guy like D Ford. So I think the 49ers should be able to, make at least one big move. I don't see it being multiple, but they should be able to make that big move, kind of like they did last year with Javon Hargrave. The 49ers clearly are in win now mode, and they didn't get over the top, so they should be willing to do whatever they can, to get over the hump. And I think that's just the offensive line, cornerback spot too. Another offensive lineman which would fit really well because he already has played in a similar system in Miami is Robert Hunt, the guard. Now, he doesn't have as much of that flexibility in terms of being able to play that tackle spot or that guard spot. He's mostly, guard spot, doesn't really play center at all. So, I think he's a guy that the 49ers should be able to try to go after if they do stake out on a guy like Mike Nwu. But again, he doesn't have as much versatility, um, with that. So we'll have to end up seeing what happens. Are they also gonna mostly rely on the draft? I know they're trying to go back and get back John Feliciano, but I think they could definitely upgrade there. Um, they clearly need to. In the draft as well, they need to spend some offensive line, time as well. So again, cornerback wise, I think a guy like Tre'Davious White could be an interesting name, right? Looking for that cornerback too. I mean, there's been reports that they were trying to go after, Jalen Johnson, the Bears cornerback one. So he's, got franchise tags. So are they going to try to go after kind of one of these maybe bigger guys? Now, there aren't as many big guys because some of these guys got franchise tagged, like a L'Jarius Sneed from the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't expect them to trade him to the 49ers because they've seen that they're probably going to be in the Super Bowl again. So, maybe a guy like Sean Murphy Bunting from Tennessee, um, a guy that I've put out there is a guy like Kenny Moore, slot cornerback. Depending on what they want to kind of do, what they want to do for that for sure. Let's see what else. If there's anything, I mean, Jeff Okuda. I mean, I don't know. Darius Williams, the Jacksonville Jaguars, that could be an interesting name. Former Los Angeles Ram as well, Safety wise, if they want to, they're going to need depth. Would they want to go after a guy, like just got released by the Seahawks and Quandre Diggs, right? Are they gonna want to go out there and sign a guy like that for just depth purposes? Because they're gonna need it. Maybe a guy like Taylor Rapp, still a young guy, but a guy from Buffalo, former Ram as well. Could they go after him? So I think there's some options possibly out there, but the biggest position I definitely could see the 49ers going after is because they absolutely love to stack this position, love to, you know, have uh, great guys in the trenches, right? We already talked about the offensive line a little bit. Defensive line, right? I know people hate to have to talk about it, but the 49ers do need an edge rusher across from Nick Bosa. They don't have one. Drake Jackson, right? Thought he could be kind of the guy last year, but just the injuries, I think he's gonna need more time. I think he's gonna be more of a rotational guy. So, you know, could they go after a guy like Danielle Hunter from the Vikings? He's coming off a pectoral injury, so he could be maybe a little bit cheaper. But could the 49ers go out and get him? I know there's been reports about them possibly bringing back Chase Young, especially if he doesn't get that market that he's thinking of or looking for, and maybe gets that 1 year deal. Could be with the 49ers. You know, um, let's see. I've also kind of thrown out some other names, but they're, I think, a bit of smaller guys maybe for the edge. Um, but those are kind of the big guys. I think the 49ers have the chance to still be able to go out there and spend some money on a big free agent. If it's at corner or if it's on the offensive line or if it's on the defensive line, I think the 49ers should be able to go out there and get someone like that, right? I think there's some solid depth guys too that they could go out there and get, another guy who hasn't been released yet, and there's been kind of people thinking he might get released, but could the 49ers going at a guy like DJ Jones for that defensive tackle spot for depth? Because Javon Kinlaw's a free agent. Kevin Givens is a free agent. They need depth as well on the defensive line, edge, and interior. So this is a little bit of a smaller name because he's not a free agent, quite yet. And would he get released, but a guy like DJ Jones, right? I think that he probably is going to get released. I've kind of talked to quite a few Broncos fans to kind of see what they think about that. And they do think DJ Jones could be gone. They do feel like they need to get out of some of these bad contracts or, you know, kind of crazy contracts when, they clearly seem like they need to rebuild. They're not really competing, right? Look at that division. They have Kansas City Chiefs. What are the Chargers going to do this offseason too, right? With their new coach and Jim Harbaugh. So I think that the 49ers can definitely go out there and spend some money this offseason. I think that the 49ers have the ability to restructure some guys. We made a whole video on that, so make sure you guys go check that out. But I think that the 49ers, again, clearly can go out there and make a big move. I think the 49ers are going to make a splash move. They did it last year. They still haven't won the Super Bowl. I think they're clearly hungry for that sixth Lombardi trophy. I think there's a lot of guys on this team that are hungry for that, right? Debo, Ayuk, Bosa, Trent Williams, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, to just name a few guys. There's, so many other guys. Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, right? I think these guys are going to be willing to also take, some pay cuts to restructure that contract so that the 49ers can go out there and get even more talent on this already stacked roster. Because I expect some of these other teams in the NFC to improve this offseason. I think the Rams are going to be better. I think that Seattle could be a little bit better. I think the Cardinals could be a little bit better. I think the Lions are still going to be really good. I think that the Packers are going to be even better. So the Niners need to spend some money. They have the ability to do so to try and get them over the hump. It's Super Bowl or bust for them, pretty much. So, you know, they have, they can go do it. Extend Brandon Ayuk, extend a guy like maybe Fred Warner. They extend more. Charvarius Ward, I could definitely see them extending. So I think they're gonna extend some of these other guys too to try and you know um, create more cap space because that actually extending guys can help because you can make that first year more in a signing bonus, right? And then basically that's going to lower that cap hit. And so then the 49ers get that money back. And also, I forgot to tell you guys this too, but I even just restructuring one. I just salary cap wise for players that didn't hit th- there are certain thresholds where they were going to get paid this much if they got this amount of sacks or played in this many games or whatnot. They're going to get that money all back in 2024. So we don't the number is going to be adjusted, but we do know they are going to have about $35 million in cap space for this reason to be able to you know make some moves, kind of re-sign some of these guys, extend some of these guys. You're gonna have a guy like Nick Bosa now coming on to the salary cap, with his extension now going into place. Armstead, Debo making a hefty amount too. So the Niners need some of that cap space, but they should be able to make one majority move, I think, in free agency again next week. Um, when the legal tampering period, opens up on Monday, and then things can be official from a week from now. So, yeah, I think the Niners are going to make a splash in free agency. Let me know down in the comment section down below if you think the 49ers are going to make a splash in free agency. Who do you think it's going to be? Who do you want them to make a splash for? Let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Turn that notification bell on. That's going to help me out a ton on growing this channel back to where I want it. Peace out and let's go 49ers.